Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Donna Serdula. And she helps executives and professionals brand themselves on LinkedIn with a professionally written, engaging, optimized LinkedIn profile. Donna Serdula is pioneered the concept of LinkedIn profile optimization and is the author of LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies. Through her website, linkedin-makeover.com, Donna and her team of 40 writers help thousands of LinkedIn users strategically write their profile in order to engage with their audience and grow their brand. Well, this is definitely something that a lot of people struggle with, so I'm very interested to hear exactly what you have to say. Donna Serdula, welcome to the show.
Oh, Neil, thank you so much for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Donna, and how you became to be the LinkedIn expert.
Yeah, I joined LinkedIn back in 2005. Do you remember when you joined LinkedIn?
Oh, it was a long time ago. I don't know the date.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. It was really like around 2002, 2003 that it started. So I'm not really an early adapter. I came in back in 2005, but back then I was presented with my LinkedIn profile and it looked a lot like a resume. So I copied and pasted my very dull, out of date, boring resume into the LinkedIn profile. And I sort of leaned back and I thought, oh, this is great. Come on, opportunity hit me. You're supposed to be on LinkedIn to find jobs, to find, sales and prospects and opportunities. And I thought great things were going to happen. But nothing happened at that moment. And I thought LinkedIn was a pretty much huge waste of time. But fast forward, I had gotten a new job, nothing to do with LinkedIn, by the way. And I was suddenly in a very dog-eat-dog sales environment. And I needed to, build a book of business. And I was doing it through cold calling. And it was as I was doing all these cold calls that I started to realize that as I was looking at the people that I was calling, they were looking at me. And it's not just for in a sales environment. This is just all over the place. If you're looking for a job, if you're looking for to prospect, even if you're just a person in business and you're making connections and you're networking, people are looking at you and they're Googling you. They want to know who they're doing business with, and a lot of times it's not your website that pops up. It's your LinkedIn profile, and most people do what I did, which is just copy and paste this really ugly, resume in there. And when people see that, it doesn't really explain who you are or what you do. It just talks about your professional past. But people want to know more about you. And I realized that, your LinkedIn profile is a digital introduction. It's a first impression. It's your career future, and it's how you help people. And if you write it in that type of a manner, good things will happen.
Right. And, I was a late adopter to LinkedIn as well, and probably had the same experience as you. I said, okay, well, I need to get a profile on there, but, I put it up there and nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing happened. And the real issue is a very simple one, Neil, and that is it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. It doesn't matter if you're a great writer or if you're a great leader or if, you're great at math. It doesn't matter. It's always hard to write about yourself. It's always hard to write about yourself. And when presented with that LinkedIn profile, no one wants to sit down and write about themselves. They just want to do the easiest thing, the fastest thing, which is just copying and pasting some other document they have. Typically, it's the resume. Sometimes it's a biography. They just copy and paste it in there and they get done with it. And they don't realize the opportunities that they're missing. They don't realize what they're not, by not presenting themselves in the right way, they are losing out.
Mm. And you've got to realize how important LinkedIn is. I think a stat by some marketing company, I can't remember the name, but they said about 87% of people, once they get a personal recommendation, go to the computer and they type in that person's name or their business name, and they're trying to find out everything about them. And LinkedIn, like you said, oftentimes is the first result that shows up, even over their own website.
And even the other option here is that people sometimes just go straight into LinkedIn and type the person's name. And I say the reason for that is if you're dealing with a professional person, a truly business-minded person, they already are on LinkedIn. And they know that if they want to search for a person, rather than go to Google and then have to deal with pages and pages and pages of nonsense, they go straight to LinkedIn, put in the person's name, and they know they're going to absolutely get that profile.
So who is on LinkedIn then? What kind of audience? I know it's mostly a business audience, but what is the goal of people on LinkedIn?
It's professional and it's career oriented. People are on LinkedIn to network, but in a professional sense. So when you go to LinkedIn, it's not one of those sexy, fun, frothy type of networks like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, where, you could talk about, Game of Thrones or whatever TV show is, that's popular. That's not the place for LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you go to discuss your industry, to discuss your business, to discuss what you do. It's a way of staying connected to your industry. It's a way of staying connected to your network. It's also a place to go, not just to see inside connections, but it's also a place to go for your own professional development. LinkedIn just recently purchased lynda.com. It's all about, training, career training. And so they also have that to offer.
Yeah, there's definitely a very targeted market. Sticking with the business niche, anybody involved in business has to be on LinkedIn.
And it's not just B2B, because a lot of times people think, well, it's business to business. That's really the main core audience. But even when we're dealing with B2C, even those people, those professionals still need to have traction with their vendors, with, other types of clients, with people who could support their business. And so even in a B2C environment, it still makes sense for these people to be on LinkedIn.
Definitely. So let's talk about the profile then. What does an optimized profile look like?
An optimized profile it's got content first and foremost. There's content in there. And it doesn't look like your resume. It doesn't look like your biography. It's a successful profile is written towards a person's goal on LinkedIn. And what I mean by that is not everyone is on LinkedIn for job search. A lot of people think of LinkedIn as just some place for, job candidates to go, job seekers to go and post their resume. But it's a very narrow view of LinkedIn. There are people who are looking for jobs. There are some people who are looking for promotions. There are some people who are looking for, really to brand themselves, to showcase themselves as an expert, as a thought leader. There's others who are doing it for reputation management. They want to really make sure that when a person looks at them, they see the breadth and the depth of their career and what they bring to the table. And so it's really important that a person knows why they're on LinkedIn. Are you doing it to get a job? Are you doing it to sell a product? Are you doing it to brand yourself? Why are you on LinkedIn? And when you really know why you're on LinkedIn, then the next step is to really think about your target audience and what do they need to know about you. And so you want to write that profile very specifically, to your goal, but also to your target audience. And as you do that, the other aspect of this, Neil, is to really think about why a person would be wanting to find you. And you would want to optimize your profile because LinkedIn is a search engine. And so if a person is looking for someone like you, know what those keywords are so you can infuse it throughout your profile. And that's what's going to get you found. That's what's going to get you more views to your profile and more opportunity.
So what things should they include in the profile? Is it, their history, their like resume type, education, their contact details?
Yeah, all of that. All of that. If we start at the very top of the profile, the first two major sections are images. If you look at your profile, you want to say to yourself, you want to look at the background image. And if it looks like a blue-green constellation, that means you did not upload a background image. And that's the first thing you're going to want to do. So if it looks like a blue-green constellation, you need to upload a picture. And you want to find a picture that sort of illustrates your brand, who you are. And it doesn't have to necessarily be an image from your company's website, but it could. It should just somehow really enforce who you are. So maybe if you're someone who does, who wants to be known for doing like insurmountable tasks, maybe find a picture of a person scaling a mountain. If you want to be seen as someone who's really wise and knowledgeable, maybe it's a picture of an owl soaring. But something very subtle like that can be very, very impactful. So that's one of the things to think in terms of is your background image and how it really showcases who you are and cements that image a person might have of you. And then there's the profile picture, and you want to make sure that it's professionally taken, that it's high level, that you look friendly and well adjusted, and you're looking into the camera lens at the person, and you're smiling, and there's no like knees or elbows in the picture. It really should just be of your head. So those are two of the images that really need to be worked on. But the other part is the headline, and that's right next to your name. And the headline is a tagline, and it follows you all over LinkedIn. And most times people just use the default, which is your job title and your current company. But you don't have to leave it at that. You can actually edit it and make it so much more interesting. And so I say think of it as your tagline and infuse it with your keywords and include a benefit statement. So tell people, if they're just glancing, who you are, what you do, and how you help, to really compel them to want to click to read more.
And the headline, people are attracted to that headline. And one of the things that I'd noticed recently is a lot of people had different images and caricatures and things like that in the headline. And I did a quick search. How do you put these different images in your LinkedIn profile? And that is how I came up with your name and your instructions to do that, and that's why I reached out to you.
Oh, I wondered how you found me.
There you go.
Well, I have on my website, it's under the resources tab on my LinkedIn-makeover.com website. It's what I call my LinkedIn headline generator. It's an online app. And it's free. Anyone can use it. You just have to put in your email address and get the login information to access it. But basically, it's a generator, and you just click. And choose a couple terms. You state who you are and what you do, and it will spit out a unique, highly interesting, compelling LinkedIn headline with those graphics, with those little icons, and you just copy it and paste it right into your headline. And people tell me all the time, once they've done that, just that simple thing of putting in a really nice, good headline, they get more views to their profile and more opportunities. In fact, some people have come back and said, it's amazing, by just putting in my keywords and saying who I am and what I do, opportunities started to flood in.
Yeah, the headline is extremely important, and those eye-catching icons really make a difference, make you stand out. So below the headline, what should you start off by saying in your profile?
Sure. So the very next section after that, now clearly there's other places like the contact information, and I will tell you, Neil, one of the biggest issues I see is people will, and I get calls, they'll say, Donna, I've been on LinkedIn for years. My phone has never once never rings because of LinkedIn. And I look at their profile and they never included their phone number. So no one can contact you. No one can reach you if you don't have your contact information. So that's really huge. Do make sure that you're putting that in there, and not just in the contact information fields, but throughout the profile, because only first degree connections can see your phone number and your email address. So if you want other people to see it, you've got to put it in numerous places throughout the profile, not just in the contact information fields. But below all of that is the summary. And the summary is an area that a lot of people just skip. They skip it. And it's because it's this big, long, free form area. And LinkedIn doesn't really tell you what to say. But that's the area where you want to introduce yourself. And this is the area where you just tell your reader who you are and, what you stand for, how you help, why you do what you do. This is where you talk about yourself. And it's tough. I know it's tough to write about yourself. But, if you don't say anything, then that person reading it isn't going to learn anything more about you. And they're not going to want to really reach out. There's no compelling reason to do so. So that area is really, really, really important. And it's where you just tell your story. Then from there, we go into your trajectory. It's your experiences, the different jobs that you've held. That's where you'd put in your current title, your current company, and you'd move backwards in time, tracing, where you've been. And yes, it should look a little bit like your resume. Everything should be identical in terms of the name of the company, the job title, and the dates. But the descriptions don't have to be. If you're not looking for a job, there's no need for you to put, all of that stuff in there. The other thing is, if you are looking for a job, you want to be careful, because if you tell them everything there's no reason for a person to want to request your resume. Or if they do request your resume and they see everything is identical, they're going to be disappointed, and they're going to assume that's all you offer, and they're not going to really have any need to call you in for an interview.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you're writing the profile, and I know people don't necessarily like to write about themselves, but should it be in story format? Or I noticed in your
great
profile,
question.
You have a couple of questions in here as well to engage.
Yeah, so when you write that summary, it really does depend upon your goal and your target audience. So if your target audience is very conservative, you do want to have a more conservative tone to your summary. But I always say write it in first person. Don't write it in third person. I know everyone sees these third person profiles, but come on, we know it's your profile. We know you wrote it. It's almost like being like the Queen of England or something. So write it in first person, own it, because this is social media, this is social networking, and we want to draw that reader in. We want them to feel closer to you. And there's nothing closer than actually owning the content and saying, I do this and I do that. It's okay to use I. But in terms of the actual pure content, if you are in sales, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing this for prospecting, there's nothing wrong with asking some qualifying questions in that summary to really make sure that reader understands that, yeah, they are, an ideal candidate for whatever it is that you offer.
Now, down at the bottom of the profile, there's a place where you can include pictures and videos. Do a lot of people use that section?
Not many people do, which is always rather curious to me. I think this is a fantastic area to exploit. And again, it always depends upon what you're using LinkedIn for. If you're a job seeker, I would not suggest uploading your resume into one of those areas. And the reason for that is your resume contains confidential information, and anyone can see it if it's posted on LinkedIn. And you do want to keep your resume in your back pocket. You want to make sure you determine who you give it to, because there's a lot of personal information in there. So I wouldn't suggest uploading a resume to one of those fields. But if you're a speaker, absolutely have a picture, have a video of you speaking. If you are in sales, think of some of the marketing literature that you might give to your clients. That would be fantastic to upload. If you're an entrepreneur, you could include, slideshows, a PowerPoint presentation outlining, the next business that you're looking into. But there's really no limit to what you could be doing with those multimedia fields.
So the profile obviously is extremely important, but how do you use the rest of the platform? What are the the top few things that you really need to do to engage and get results from LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I believe that to have success on LinkedIn, it's really a 4-point strategy. And the first point we've discussed a little bit, and that is really determining your goal. What are you really trying to accomplish? The second point is, optimizing your profile, taking that branding very seriously, and realizing that you have the power, you have the control to shape how others perceive you. You can signal how you want others to think about you, judge you, know you. But once you have those two things, the next thing you want to do is you want to start building your network. And so when I talk to people who haven't had much success on LinkedIn, I often will say, how many first-degree connections do you have? And they'll say, oh, I've got 80. I have 50. And the truth of the matter is you should be adding a 0 to that. You want to have a strong network. LinkedIn is very much like an old-fashioned Rolodex. Neil, are you old enough? Do you remember what a Rolodex was?
I do, yes.
Nowadays, I think most people use them as doorstops, but at one time, this was, the core of a person's business. This was what held their book of business and all of the people that they knew. And that's what really LinkedIn is. And so an empty Rolodex is useless, as is LinkedIn, if you don't have enough connections. So you really want to build that network. All of the people that you meet, all the people that you've met, all the people that you know and the people that you want to know. These are people that you should be connecting with. And with LinkedIn, it's not a once and done. This is something that you need to always be doing. It needs to become part of your business processes, your everyday life. You go to a networking event, you connect with these people. You're going into a conference. Look at the people ahead of time, know who they are, learn about them. And then as you're leaving the conference, make sure that you circle around and connect with them to keep those connections, to keep that network alive. So that's point 3 on my 4 points of LinkedIn. My fifth one is then you need to start to engage. And what that means is you know why you're on, you've got this great looking profile, you've got a strong network that is growing. Well, now you've got to start splashing around. So at this point, you want to make sure that you're sharing content, you're putting information out there, and you're interacting with this network, whether it's via their status updates, whether it's through blogs, or just even one-to-one. You really need to make sure that you're getting on LinkedIn and you're splashing around, you're interacting and you're engaging.
Now, talk to me about the first degree, second degree, third degree connections. What does that mean?
So when you connect with a person, you send them an invitation to connect. As soon as that person accepts it, you're now considered first degree connections. So it's a direct connection. You know each other. One of you has invited the other person to connect. And the other person has basically said, yes, we are directly connected to each other. But that network extends. And so, Neil, if you and I are connected and I am connected to someone else, but that person isn't connected to you, that person would be considered your second degree connection. I'm the mutual link between you and that other person. Now, that other person has people that they're connected to. And those people who aren't connected to me or to you are considered third degree connections. And it's almost like that movie from years ago. well, actually, it's even that parlor game, the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, if you remember that.
Right.
But it's this concept of the degrees of separation. The one thing that Reid Hoffman did, which is nice, is he simplified it. So instead of going 6 degrees, he kept it at 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, who can see your content? Is that just your first degree connections, or can your second and third see your content as well?
If they visit your LinkedIn profile, they can see pretty much everything. But when you are posting on LinkedIn, that is only going to your first degree connections LinkedIn feed. Now, you can post it where the public could see it. And in that regard, if a person shares it, it can really become viral and go out much further. But when you post on LinkedIn, it's very much like Twitter. It's very much like Facebook. When you post information, not just to your LinkedIn profile, but really to your, to the LinkedIn feed, it's just your direct connections that are immediately seeing it. It's falling onto their LinkedIn feed, not in a chronological order, but in an order that signals relevance. So LinkedIn, just like Facebook, and I think Twitter is sort of getting towards that as well, where if they consider this information relevant to you, they're going to make sure you see it.
See more of it. How important are the groups then for reaching more people?
You know what? At one time, Neil, groups were just this lively, amazing community. It was forums built around topics, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful time. But LinkedIn has gone through a number of changes. I mean, even within the last year and a half, they've really changed their site. They changed their features and the functionality. And as they have really reinvented the network, one of the things that they did is they kind of dropped the ball on groups. And even though groups are still there, they're not as active as they used to be. Now, I was never a huge proponent of getting into a group and spamming it. To me, that always seemed very obnoxious. But what I still am a proponent of is join groups where your target audience is, because those group members are added to your network, like akin to a third degree connection. So if a person is searching for you, or if they're searching not just for you, but for someone like you, if you want to turn up in those searches, you need to be within their network. And so if you want to be within their network and you don't know them, and you don't know anyone they know, the best way to get into that network is to join a group that they belong to. So my thing is, join groups to expand your reach, join groups to expand your network, to turn up in more searches, to find more opportunity. LinkedIn recently has made huge changes to the group's platform, and they really are trying to just re-energize it, bring it back to life. My fingers are crossed that they will do it, but they have quite a hill ahead of them, a mountain maybe. So until people start getting back into groups and groups start becoming active, I can't necessarily say, spend your time there, because I don't want people spending their time in a land of just crickets.
Right. Okay, Donna, well, you have written a couple of books on how to get the most out of LinkedIn profile optimization for Dummies, and the LinkedIn Makeover. Tell us a little bit about what we'll find inside those books.
Sure. So as much as I love my first book, LinkedIn Makeover, I have replaced it with the LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies. It is a For Dummies book from Wiley.
Right.
And it's my methodology, and it's a fun read. It's written to be very engaging. There's parts of it, I think, that you'll laugh out loud reading. And I know when they first reached out to me, they were like, is there enough about a LinkedIn profile to write a book about it. It was almost hard for them to understand that, yeah, we easily filled in over 300 pages of how to really, put forth the right image on your LinkedIn profile. But it's not designed to be read cover to cover. It really is very much like a workbook. So anyone who gets that book, they can open it at any point and start reading and getting something out of it. So that's something that I really wanted to make clear, that it wasn't a book to be read from beginning to end. You could, but it's there to help you no matter where you are within the profile. Mm-hmm. I also was the technical editor on LinkedIn Sales Navigator for Dummies. That just came out, and it's all for those who are really interested in social selling. And I also just contributed a chapter to UMAP by Kristen Sherry. And that's a book, it's a step-by-step guide to discover and land a job that you'll love. So I've got a couple different things out there now of things that I've written.
Excellent. Well, there's always tons of information in books, but you do offer that as a service for business executives and professionals as well, don't you, to write the profiles?
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's one thing for me to tell a person, this is how you do it, and think of these things and do these things. But it's so hard for a person. They have their life to lead. They've got their family, they've got their business, and no one wants to write about themselves. No one actually looks forward to sitting down and writing their LinkedIn profile. In fact, so many of my clients will say to me, I've been trying to write my profile now for 3 months. Each time I sit down to write it, I then realize that I need to clean out my garage and reorganize my kitchen cabinets, because every odious task is more attractive than writing my profile. And so if that sounds like you, then you might be a perfect candidate just to outsource it. And right. I have writers, we interview you, we talk to you, we figure out what you're trying to accomplish, and then we craft. We do all of the heavy lifting, we do all of the hard work, and we write it for you from the top to the bottom. And it's going to be authentic, it's going to be genuine, it's going to be impressive. And when you showcase your best, you attract the best. And so my clients always come back and tell me that not only when they go through the process, they actually feel more confident about who they are and what they offer. They also they're now able to better articulate their professional story. They knew they had one, but they really weren't sure what it was because they sat so close, they couldn't really focus in. And they also come back and tell me that as soon as they were ready, that's when opportunity really started to hit them.
Mm. Well, it's definitely very important to have that optimized LinkedIn profile. It's the first impression, like you say, it's where people come to find out more about you. So getting it done professionally is very advisable. So if people want to reach out to you, Donna, obviously they can find you on LinkedIn, but really what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, but you know what? The best way to get in contact with me is just through my website, linkedin-makeover.com. And you can go to my contact page, but you can also we publish our services and our pricing. Everything is there. We work as transparently as possible. So you can see what we do. You can see our resume writing services, our LinkedIn services, our ghost blogging services. It's all there. But it's also very easy to get on my calendar, and I can call you or you can call me, and we'll talk about your needs and get everything behind you so you guys can move forward.
And the books are available where?
On Amazon. And actually, every time I walk into a Barnes and Noble, I always see my book on the end cap, one of the end caps, with all the other For Dummies books, and that's always that's something that I love seeing.
Oh, I bet. It's definitely nice to have your books out there, and especially in the brick and mortar stores, which Amazon has kind of taken over them, although they've started their own brick and mortar store now, haven't they?
I know, isn't that crazy? I thought for sure that it would totally move online, but in fact they're now moving into the actual property. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Well, Donna Serdula, thank you very much for being my guest on the Trust Factor Radio today. It's been very informative.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a real pleasure.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.